Hey, how's everybody doing this evening? This is episode 2 of Taking Care of Fitness, podcast dedicated to all things health and wellness, training, diet, coming from a certified NASM personal trainer who holds uh, various different certifications. So there's been a lot of things lately that have been on my mind that I keep seeing on social media that I've been meaning to put out there in terms of a podcast, and what better way to do so rather than have interviews. Sometimes it's really good that someone is able to just get their words out there, and hopefully it attracts people who agree, and hopefully it attracts people that disagree, because it's really important to have the conversation with everybody and trade and exchange ideas and information, especially in this very large industry. So what I've been seeing a lot of, especially on Instagram, because I follow so many different doctors, influencers, dietitians, nutritionists, what have you, is there seems to be this. I don't really want to call it a fad going on, but there seems to be a lot of people who put up these very interesting posts about what is bad for you in terms of food, in terms of the type of water you're drinking, in terms of the supplement or the ingredients in your supplement, or the certain companies that certain companies that make the supplements that you may or may not be taking. And what they do is, not all of them, just some of these people, what they do is they leave you hanging and never give you the information for an alternative, for the correct way to do things, a correct company to use, the correct and types of food you should use, where you should look for them. They don't do that. And there's only a few I can say that do that. Now, some of them sometimes will push their own products, which I really don't mind, because after all, this is a business and I totally understand that. But and I think that it goes hand in hand, where you're going to push a product that has been made the right way, has been utilized the right way, and therefore it's guilt free. And of course, you may pay a little bit more money for it, but I'd rather pay a little bit more money for something that's good for me than opposed to paying a lot less money for stuff that's no good for me. One of the people that come to mind is Paul Saladino, a doctor who was very big into the carnivore diet, or at least was for a long time. And I recently have seen a post about him, how he makes his own honey from a beehive that he has. I forgot how the bees are. The bees are kept very safe and stuff like that. You can probably find it on Instagram, and he's now pushing a product of his own honey, which I think is cool. That's something I would definitely be interested in. I mean, it all depends on how much honey you like, if you like it with your dessert, if you eat it. It is good for you organically, but obviously the way the bees are and the way it's prepared. So he's one of the many that do that. Of course, he has his own line as well of products, and some of the other ones don't do it. And I there is one doctor in particular, and I'm not trying to demonize them by doing this, because I still follow them, and I think that they do still give out very good information, despite the fact that they're not being totally transparent, which I really don't understand. Because as a doctor, I would think that the first step of everything would be, first do no harm. The rule they take, the a Hippocratic oath, where their job is to take care for and point people in the right direction. Profit is the last thing. There is a doctor, or I should say doctors, that I don't see doing that, and it becomes rather concerning for me, because I then question why. And I can't tell you how many times I've commented to them on their page, can you please tell me why you're not being transparent? And a lot of the times you don't get an answer from them. You get other people who will chime in and, yay or nay, or like what you're saying, and maybe they'll point you in the right direction. But you don't, for some reason, you're not getting that. And I don't understand why. So one of the doctors is Stephen Cabral, Dr. Stephen Cabral. He's a doctor of naturopathy. Got a real cool, gives out a lot of cool information. I think he gives. I know he has a podcast. I definitely like a lot of the stuff he has. But recently, he had a post up about, which I thought was rather interesting, talking about the 6 most common foods that negatively affect the thyroid. And he lists them from 1 to 6: gluten, dairy, eggs, mainly egg whites, corn, soy, and chocolate. So what I'm looking at is, well, that's kind of a vague list, because okay, gluten is that's umbrella. We get that. Dairy, does that mean all dairy? How about organic dairy? How about, you know, or just processed dairy? Eggs, mainly whites. Is that organic eggs? Is that pasture raised eggs? What is that? Corn, obviously, we all know. I think we all stay away for, hence because of the GMOs and the glyphosate. Soy has, in my opinion, from what I've read and the research I've done and what I've heard about it, is complete shit. Stay away from it as all as can be. I know that there's a lot of science and studies that say how it raises estrogen in men, I believe. The 6th one he has is chocolate. So I had to ask him, I said, now, this is kind of a vague list. Are you talking about milk chocolate? Are you talking about dark chocolate? Are you talking about chocolate with a very high percentage of cacao in it? And the answer I got back was, again, sort of vague. According to him, it's all chocolate can be potential triggers for those with thyroid issues. Dark chocolate may be less problematic, but still depends on individual sensitivity. Organic corn is also problematic, even if it is free from pesticides. So I responded, thank you, but don't you think you should put that in the info within the post to let people know? Because when you just put up this one thing, that's not doing it. You're not giving everybody all the information. I don't understand that. Why can't you be more transparent? Are you looking for likes? Are you looking for a following? Are you looking for shock baiting and scaring people? I just don't get that. And again, I'm not demonizing the guy. I think the guy is great, man. I really do. I think he gives out a lot of good information, but I think there has to be more transparency, 100%. His exact post was, if you are struggling with thyroid issues and looking to rebalance your thyroid, I would highly recommend eliminating these foods, at least for 3-week elimination. If you haven't tested your food sensitivities, you can do right at home. And again, StephenCampbell.com food test. So again, he's trying to sell something. I would think that a doctor trying to sell something, I don't have a problem with that, but you would put out the right information even if you want to sell something. To me, that's only going to make people want to buy more stuff, because they'll say, hey, look, they're being very transparent about what they're saying, and they're giving me a healthy alternative. So yeah, I would like to do business with this person. But we don't get that all the time, and I just don't understand. And it angers me, it bothers me. It kind of thinks it's a little bit sneaky, it's a little bit disingenuous. It's not exactly what they signed up for. That's just my opinion. Another doctor who's doing this is another gentleman I follow. I basically found him recently. Again, another gentleman who gives out a lot of good information. I think I'm not demonizing him. That's not my goal to do so. I don't know if I'm going to butcher this name, but I probably will. Dr. Shin Tani for your health. That's the name on Instagram. Dr. Shintani. I guess that's his last name. He recently had a post up that I thought was rather interesting, because once again, I found that it was a little bit non-transparent. You can find him on www.peacediet.org. He's chairman, International Holistic Therapy Association, founder at University Integrative Medicine, and MD, MPH, Harvard-trained nutritionist. So obviously he's a very well-educated man, I'm sure. Although I don't always believe that the degree that they earn means everything. I'm more concerned about the transparency and how they treat people and the information they give out. So, according to him, a large study links meat to diabetes. Here are 4 reasons why. Okay, so in the post, he talks about, he's always trying to sell you his free ebook, and I think that's cool that it's for free. But he's talking about how in 2024, information was analyzed from 2 million people, and they found a 15% increase in risk of type 2 diabetes for every 1.8 ounces of processed meat they ate each day, and a 10% increase in risk for every 3.5 ounces of unprocessed red meat they consume daily. While this isn't proof of causation, there are at least 4 ways that meat can contribute to type 2 diabetes. Number one, red meat tends to be high in saturated fat, which is known to cause insulin resistance. Number two, red and processed meat is associated with obesity in most studies. Number three, meat increases TMAO or trimethylene oxide, which interferes with insulin signaling. And number four, hemi-iron, which is in red meat, is inflammatory and may be toxic to the pancreas. So to reduce your risk of diabetes, consider cutting back on your meat intake and increase your intake of beans, whole grain, fruit, and vegetables, which are associated with less diabetes. And get my free. And again, he pushes his free ebook. Now, here's my problem with this. And I told him, I said, you're contradicting yourself bad here. I said, this sounds to me very one-sided. Where is the study? He never posts a study on his post, which right away is sketchy to me. How many people were consuming other things during this time and were recorded? Meaning, how many of these people eating meat were also eating grain, sugar, whatever? You said meat, but then you said processed meat. Big difference. Are there studies for those eating organic grass-fed or from regenerative farms? How exactly does meat cause insulin resistance? I never got an answer, of course. I did get somebody by the name of, what's her name? Forever His Atlanta Girl telling me she loved it. Thank you very much. That was nice of you. Again, I'm not looking for a Medal of Honor, man. I'm just curious to know. So again, this gentleman does put out a lot of good information, but you're trying to sell your ebook twice, or you're trying to push your free ebook, which at least, which I'm saying, if you're going to push it, get some money for it. Or the fact that you're doing it for free even makes me think that you should be putting the study up there as well as all the information to help people even better. You seem like a cool guy. Here's what I'm curious to know. First of all, he's talking about processed meat. He didn't say organic, grass-fed, anything. So that's one thing to consider, because you can't just demonize meat altogether. That seems to be what he's doing. He's also talking about how meat can contribute to type 2 diabetes. It tends to be high in saturated fat. The last I checked, I don't understand how that causes insulin resistance. Okay, that's just, I don't know. Red and processed meat associated with obesity in most studies. But what else are those people eating? Meat increases trimethylene oxide, which interferes with insulin signal. Okay, show me the studies. Where is that? And number four, hemi-iron, which is a meat, is inflammatory and may be toxic to, again, show me the studies. You can't just say these things and not put up alternatives, what people should do, because I start to feel that it's kind of getting culty and it's kind of becoming part of a trend. And when you do that, and you're a doctor, you're killing your credibility. At least you are in my eyes, and I just don't get that. Now, there's another doctor out there who I follow who's really pissing me off. I like him. I think he's good. He puts up a lot of good stuff, and I will give him props where he gets it, where he deserves it. But for the most part, I keep finding that he's not doing what he's supposed to do. And I can't tell you how many times I comment on his page with the same thing. Can you give alternatives to people? Can you please help? Can you, be the good person you sought out to be when you became a doctor, or are you being a doctor for the wrong reasons? Because I have a really hard time with people who don't do that. His name is Daniel Pompa, Dr. Daniel Pompa. I believe he was a chiropractor. So right away, I'm kind of sketchy, no disrespect to chiropractors, but when you're pumping out all these videos about things, I'm starting to wonder the credibility, because to me, it's just like, well, A, you're not giving any alternatives, and B, you're not giving any help. So in one of the latest posts he had up, he was talking about the efficacy of the quality of olive oil that you get when you go to the store and buy it. And he went as far to even throw in the fact, since I'm Italian, and I'm like, yeah, guess what? I'm Italian too. Where I come from, and I said this to him, obviously on a comment. I said, where I come from, we help out our people. We help out all people. We help out patients. We help out clients. We help out everyone, regardless of if they're Italian, if they're African American, if they're from Switzerland, if they're from Brooklyn, if they're from England. What does it matter? He's like, well, because I'm Italian, I really like olive oil. I'm like, okay. So even more of a reason for you to put out the right information. So basically what he's talking about how is that when you buy olive oil, which is good information, by the way, I told him that, Now you have to always look to see, obviously, if it's in a plastic container, because as we know, plastic contains phthalates, which you don't want in your olive oil or any food. You want to make sure that it's in a glass jar or a glass, some type of glass, and then you want to make sure that it's sourced from one different place. You don't want something that's from Spain, from Sweden, from Italy, because the oil has been watered down and loses quality. So what you have to do now is basically be an oil detective. An extra, obviously organic extra virgin olive oil, but the guy doesn't give you any good alternatives. He just gives you the negative. I mean, he's no different than a lot of the news networks that you see that only want to just kind of give you the shock and negative and not give you the positive. In this field, when you're not doing that to people, you're either a charlatan, you're full of shit, you don't know the answer, which is fine, admit that to people, or you're looking just to up your buck. And I got a problem with that. You can do all three. You can up your buck, not be a charlatan, and still sell something and still be credible. That's the way I look at it. And don't tell me you can't, you can. He also puts up a post about the efficacy of pans in terms of using those non-stick ones with the I forgot the name of the chemical that's involved. That it's interestingly enough that I learned when I watched his video that when you burn something, it also gets into the air, which of course is never good and why you should not be using it. But what the guy does not do is he doesn't tell you about stainless steel. He doesn't tell you about cast iron. He tells you nothing. What about the people that don't know this? How are you not helping them? You are not helping them by not giving them the right information. And I see this over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it is obviously, to me at least, it's ridiculous, man. There is another gentleman. I'm trying to think of his name. I will find him. Hold on one second as I look through my information on Instagram. And again, I'm not demonizing these people. I follow them. I think they put out some really good information, some really good thought pieces. I would like to believe that they're out there to kind of help people. I'm sure I would like to think that that's the end all be all. That's the main thing. But sometimes we find that that's not the case, which is really really disappointing. I'm not one to put people on blast. I'm not going to do that. Not to kind of act tough and everything, but that's something that's something that a coward does. That's the way I look at it. I think that if you got something that you really want to get off your chest with somebody, I think that what you should do is have a long form conversation, whether it's a podcast or something like that. I think that's the way to do it instead of just doing this silly let's put people on blast thing. I just don't understand that. I don't understand that concept whatsoever. I think it's very silly. You know what? I can't even remember the gentleman's name right now. He was a cancer doctor. I forgot who he was exactly, but he had a post up about, stop saying they want you sick. Stop saying they. There is no they. Or he was trying to lead people to stop talking about the whole they thing, to whole think harder. Him and I have gone back and forth via comment on Instagram, and I said, look, man, I think that what you're doing is great. I think that, and he was trying to explain to me how trying to find cures for cancer is very expensive and it takes time, and I understand all that. And of course, I don't understand all that, and I'm sure it does. I'm sure there's so much that goes on, and I'm sure a lot of the time the doctor's hands are tied because of the way the current health care program is, which I think is a shit one. And has to be fixed, especially in the cancer area. But I did say to him, you got to understand something. I had two parents that are cancer survivors, God bless them. I had cancer running my family for a long time. And it's, cancer's been around for an extreme, I would like to think, in terms of them knowing really what they know, for a long time, right? And there have been various alternatives to use. I know that the Suzanne Summers, the great actress who passed away not too long ago, was using forms of HGH to survive. I think it was breast cancer that she was able to live with for a long time, as opposed to chemotherapy, because she was very much a naturopathic person. So I was saying to him, there's got to be another way. With all the billions of dollars that go into research, with all the hospitals, especially the great Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York City, which is, mega famous. Both my parents have been there. You go in there, you see people, kids, which kills you the most, on getting chemo. It does more than break your heart. There has got to be more than just chemo. And I'm not saying chemo doesn't work, but what we do know now is chemo is a poison that probably and most likely does what it's supposed to do. But at the same time, the side effects are catastrophic, and it does kill good blood cells. I had no idea that people who do get chemo cannot give blood no more. Now, of course, obviously, with a lot of, what's been going on is, you do the operation, take the tumor out if it hasn't spread. That I 100% get. But my point is that with all the billions of dollars, and I'm not a conspiracy person, but you would think that by now, it doesn't even have to be a perfect world, we would have made a lot more gains. Does it have to be a cure? I do believe there's a cure, but we all know that. I mean, he's trying to say that 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 this doesn't happen. There is no they, or stop with the they thing, and I have a problem with that because, again, I think that the unfortunately in the medical area, medical care and medicine, we're always where there's areas to make a lot of money, we're always going to see the people who have the wrong intentions, and we know that when that happens, obviously, you know, it leads to greed, or it leads to greed used incorrectly, and we all know where that goes. You know, it doesn't go great. And we know that big companies. Put it this way, without milly mouthing around it, there's so much potential for people to make money in that field, and they may not be doing the absolute right thing, or they may know that the way it was been told to me, and the way it seems, is that when you're not sick, you're not a dollar sign. And again, I don't think this goes for everybody. I think it only goes for some. I think there's a lot of great doctors out there. I think there's a lot of wonderful people working in the medical field. I think there's a lot of wonderful people working with big pharma. A lot of people, doing it's out of a lot of people's hands, you know. But with all the leaps and gains we're seeing from so much of I want to say the alternative area, whether it's stem cells, whether it's so many various different forms, there has got to be more. There has got to be more out there. This path cannot be so narrow, not in 2024. And I wonder, is it narrow because of control and power, or is it narrow because that's just the way it is? I believe a little bit of both, but more towards the first one because of control and power. I think that's what it comes down to, and that's a shame. So, again, these gentlemen that I've listed, I'm not trying to put them on blast. I like a lot of their information. I follow them on Instagram. I'm just not happy when they're not 100% transparent, and I don't understand why. And I don't understand why they put each other on blast when they disagree with something. And I don't understand why don't you just don't have the conversation with each other. I mean, I get why some of them wouldn't do it because they don't want to be obviously put out there, and they don't want to be look like they're lying and exposed. But hey, man, if you're doing and saying the right thing, the wrong thing, and giving out the shit information, then you deserve to be exposed and you deserve to be put on blast, to be honest. But like I said, it's never to demonize these people. I follow them. I like a lot of their information. I think it's okay to not agree with everybody. If you agree with everybody 1,000,000%, there's something obviously wrong. So I would definitely check these people out, to follow them. They have great information. If you want to buy their stuff, buy their stuff. It's up to you. Like I said, just ask yourself the same questions that I'm asking them when you see, and if you see their posts. Why are you not giving out the right answer, the good alternatives? Is there a reason? I mean, I try and point my clients in the right direction. If I don't know the answer, I will try my best to find it, and I may not. I may not know everything. I know I don't know everything. In fact, I tell them that right away. but I will do the research and try and help them, because in helping them, I'm also helping myself and helping others. And that's what this is all about, especially when you're a doctor. Again, it's just my 10 cents. And I'm sorry, the guy's name is Dr. Joe Zundel, PhD. Seems like a very nice guy, very smart guy, but still, I just have a lot of questions with things. But thanks for listening. I'll be coming at you with more content. Please like the page, subscribe. I appreciate it. Peace.